motivate. Somehow he knows how to motivate folks, and he did it when he was defensive coordinator here. So, it's going to be a tough place. You got to go and you got to play your best football game, and it's division, and now you're talking about first place now. So, it means a lot. This game means a lot today.
How hard was he getting tackled on the turf of the Kingdom?
It was basically concrete.
You're taking it's like a carpet, right?
It was concrete with a little bit of grass on top.
Now the turf we talk about, it's like the little, looks like little grass, or it's like fake looking grass. That was just straight green carpet with numbers.
They're still trying to figure out turf then. And a lot of guys kind of paid for it. A lot of turf burns, a lot of banged up knees, a lot of blown ACL.
They knew that didn't work.
They knew it didn't work.
We're still trying to figure it out, boys.
And we got to play on it. But, it was an awful stadium as far as the turf. But the fans were always behind the Seahawks. And like I said, they weren't a very good football team. But it gets loud up there because they back up their football team. So, like I said, you got to play your best game today.
Adam Copeland, John Lund, Dennis Brown with you. 49er pregame here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader. Kickoff at 5:20. We still got plenty more to come here. We will have a conversation with Matt Maiocco. And by the way, I saw, of all the guys who were here working at KNBR, a big thanks to all the dudes behind the scenes today who are getting it done. Danny, Tim, I saw Raph was here. And we're going to go out to Raph in a bit here. I'm going to talk to him in the break in the KNBR Weather Center. I'm going to get his forecast here for the Seahawks and the Niners from the KNBR weather desk here. I saw Greg Silver was here, so thanks to all the guys behind the scenes, and thank you for tuning in on twitch.tv/thesportsleader, YouTube at KNBR 104.5, and, of course, streaming on the KNBR app. When we come on back, we will look a little deeper into this one. 49ers and the Seahawks, a short week on Thanksgiving. We'll tell you what's going on in that Washington and Cowboys game as well, only here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader.
it just feels like playoff time for the rest of the season. If we're so fortunate to be rolling in that kind of area, it just feels like that. Every game coming up is crucial, and this one is just kind of as obvious as it gets. So I hope the fans are juiced and ready to go, and we will be, and make it a great night. We'll look good in the unis and all that. It'll be an exciting night.
Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, the Super Bowl champion, and John Lund with you here, ahead of the 49ers and the Seahawks. Pete Carroll feels like playoffs when he faced he says it feels like the playoffs when he plays the 49ers. I think that's always the case, especially, over the last, the better part of the last the last decade or so, going back to the Harbaugh years. They were great against each other then. The Seahawks sustained it for much longer. They were built around defense. The Niners pulled apart and then came back to it, but it's sort of what makes a rivalry great is that this rendition of these teams have gone up against each other in different generations. That's why rivalries happen. It's not just a short-lived head-to-head. For really the Niners and Cowboys rivalry, there hasn't been anything since the 90s or the 80s. You know what I mean? Since the Niners took it from them, they sort of passed the torch, and then it came back with the Aikman years. But after that was sort of short-lived. They've had more with the Seahawks really in the last sort of two iterations of this 49er greatness. Last two times have been competitive.
Yeah, and I think about like the Legion of Boom and Navarro and Patrick Willis and Crabtree. And then I think about the head coaches.
The Smiths.
And I think about the coaches, Harbaugh and his aggressive way, and then you got
and Roman.
Oh, all those. I mean, I think that's what the rivalry's about. I mean, when I think about it, Russell Wilson always kind of pulling the game out at the end. So it's always been exciting football. It's been exciting football between these two teams, and it's always cool to kind of see the chess match that kind of happens. And, Kenny Norton was defensive coordinator a couple years there, so there's a little history between the two teams. So, it's always been a really fun a rivalry. Me going to University of Washington, it's always been kind of cool because I watched the Seahawks when I was in college, and then now in the pros. When I got to the pros, we would beat them every year. It was very easy. But now, it's kind of back. It's kind of back.
Easy.
And I always think about when I see Seattle and I kind of reminisce about things. So it means a lot. It's kind of a cool thing for me to kind of watch the games too, and I'm excited about this game.
Yeah, look, it goes back, like you said, and what's crazy about Seattle is Pete Carroll's still around. Yeah. Bobby Wagner came back to this organization, so there are a few pieces today, at least on Seattle's end, that are the same, but it seems like lately, remember last year, they were supposed to be in rebuild mode, and all of a sudden they make the Russell Wilson trade, and they get a few players, and they get some young players who absolutely step up, and while it's not as nasty as it was in the early 2010 and so forth. Super Bowl 47, the 49ers go. Super Bowl 48, the Seahawks win it. Super Bowl 49, the Seahawks get beat by the Patriots. But it seems like, we thought for a minute there it was going to be the Rams that were going to be the rival, and they go out and they win the Super Bowl, and then they have to kind of pay for what they did. And all of a sudden, Seattle jumps back, and here they are. And it comes down to the Seahawks and the 49ers for the division again. And, 2 of the next 3 weeks, you see them with the Eagles in between. So if you look at the schedules for these teams, Seattle's got a really tough schedule. Philly does. Detroit lost today to the Packers if you're just tuning in. So, it looks like it's going to come down to Seattle again. Saw them 3 times last year, beat them in the playoff game. One thing to note is I was looking at these defenses. Do you realize that January 14th was that wild card game? There's only 2 players on Seattle's defense that started in that game and will start in this game. Reek Woolen, the right corner, and Quandre Diggs, the safety. Everybody else is different. Now Bobby Wagner is back. We've seen him. There's guys like that.
I'm sorry, this is from which game?
From the playoff game
last
year. Last time we saw
first
Seattle.
Playoff game in the wild card round last year.
Last time we saw Seattle, there's only 2 starters on that defense, and they're both in the secondary. The entire front 7 is different as far as the starters. Now, a guy like Nwosu is hurt. Jordan Brooks was on the roster but was hurt. Bobby Wagner wasn't around. So, Mike Jackson is one of the backup corners, but the corners, Devin Weatherspoon is different. Trey Brown was hurt. So, you go down the roster. So, while it's easy, we're talking about a short week here. We're going Sunday to Thursday. Well, you'd look at that and you'd say, well, Seattle really well. Well, 9 of their 11 starters on defense are different than it was just in that playoff game. But offensively, they're the same. Geno Smith is there. Ken Walker III is not going to play. So that's Jack Charbonnet, the kid out of UCLA who they know. But, DK's there. Tyler Lockett's there. Those kind of guys. Lockett versus Ward today and how kind of nasty that got last year. So a lot of things are the same. But defensively, Seattle's a little bit different, and they're playing a 3-4.
49ers off of 2 straight wins here, a short week. We did see this almost exact scenario last year, but Brock was the one who was banged up, right? They beat Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and then don't forget, one of my favorite notes, I just want to make sure nobody ever forgets that after the game, Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner walked up to Tom Brady and were like, "Let us get your jersey, bro." Remember that they walked out? Remember they would have? Remember? Oh no, they made him sign the interception ball. Is what?
Yeah, when Dre got the interception
football. That's
ball.
right. He said he was going to pick him off. He wanted to.
Yeah.
Then he did, and he was like, "Sign this ball." I said it was.
Fred came up to him and just kind of greased the skids for him, and then he kind of turned to Dre and goes, "Yeah, come on."
I'm trying to build a narrative here. You know what I mean?
Well, what was funny about it was afterwards they asked him because I ran down to the Tampa Bay side of things because I was like, this is gonna be Brady's last game.
Sure.
And somebody asked him about it, and he kind of chuckled, and he was in such a bad mood after they lost 35-7 that he kind of immediately regretted it. But he said, it's later in my career. I'm trying to be a nicer guy. But he said earlier in my career, there's no way in hell I would have signed an interception ball. But he was trying to be nice, as he left the game.
Oh, why would they think that was okay to do, though?
Because they won 35-7. I said it's very much felt like to me. I think I said this to you guys in the postgame. It felt very much like they were walking up like, "Hey Tom, what size shoes are those? What size shoes are these? Man? Let me have those shoes." So what I'm saying is, after that, Brock Purdy then gets hurt in that game. We didn't even know how hurt he was on the short week. Goes into Seattle and wins that game. Christian McCaffrey carried a big load that night. It was a rainy day.
Yep.
He had hurt his ribs. He hadn't thrown all week till they got to the walkthrough in the ballroom at the hotel. So this is a interestingly enough, we talked about this. These are situations now we're starting to hit in Brock Purdy's young career that he has faced. He's been on short weeks before. He has come off of tough defensive games where they battled to win. Last year, probably even more difficult considering it was the first start of his career. So this is an interesting situation. As you mentioned, Lions fall today to the Packers. They're 8-3. Seahawks come in at 6-4. Philly still 9-1. They get the Bills at home this week. Niners are 7-3. The Cowboys are playing right now. They're leading Washington 7-0 early in the second quarter in that game from Dallas. They are 7-3 right now. Let's get into the health report, sponsored by Danville Neuropathy Center, bringing your nerve pain to an end. John, you mentioned the health of Kenneth Walker the third, who leads the Seahawks in yards, 613 rushing yards at 4.1 a carry and 6 touchdowns. Zach Charbonnet is the guy who's going to go, 261 at 4.9 a carry. He's a bigger back. He's a sort of a hulking dude. He can catch a little bit out of the backfield. His body type reminds me a little bit of like Austin Eckler. I don't think he's quite as quick laterally and quite as good of a pass catcher, but he's a guy who falls forward. He's strong, he's tough, and can get through the tackles. Only 2 touchdowns on the year for him. Kenneth Walker went down last week, early in the game with an oblique. And then the other one we're paying attention to is the QB situation. We'll get to the Niners in a second.
Yeah, Gino is going to start. It's just like I said, and I was just as we were talking, I was just texting with a friend of mine who just got to the stadium, so he told me he'd give me an update on how Gino looked in the pregame, but he's going to play. But the two things about the backs, Charbonnet, you hit it right on the head. We all remember this at UCLA. He finishes runs strongly. He just hasn't had as many opportunities. He's a second-round pick this year. Yeah, he's good. Ken Walker, maybe the biggest thing with him is that he's a great running back, but he's big in the screen game. They love to go screen game with him. So I don't know. They'll probably go Charbonnet in the screen game and not change a whole lot. But Ken Walker just has a really good knack in the screen game, so that's a big loss for Seattle in that aspect of their offense.
And how important is tackling going to be today? Think about that.
Yep.
This Charbonnet, the way he runs, bigger guy, he falls forward, like you said. It's going to be important to wrap him up and get him to the ground.
Good point.
Let me ask you this, Dennis. Talanoa Hufanga, pardon me, now out for the season. Ji'Ayir Brown steps in. And we talked a little bit on the postgame, and I think there was some speculation like, oh, boy, a young safety and DB like that, he's going to have to pick up tight ends a lot. And when we talked to Greg Cosell this week, he says if you watch a lot of film, you can see that assignment actually goes frequently not to Hufanga. Tight ends are frequently covered by Tashawn Gibson. I'm wondering how the Niners react to the injury of a guy like Talanoa Hufanga, because beginning of the year, we knew how crucial like Nick Bosa would be. We knew how crucial Hargrave would be, a guy like Trent Williams. Now we know Brock is instrumental to their success. Fred Warner, I would say so too, but even more so in my mind now because of the line of defense that's behind him that's just not as experienced.
Well, I mean, you help him out a lot, and he's lucky. Like you see, he's got Gibson back there. I mean, you support him. A lot of communication, and whatever the coverage is, you try to help him out a little bit. But he's got to kind of earn it, right? I mean, he's a rookie, and he's put out there. He has an opportunity to prove himself, and coaches expect him to make the plays. He started off slow last week, but he got a lot better as the game went on, and ended up making those 3 really big plays, and then that ending interception. So. You support them, you communicate, but the bottom line is you're on a football field. They expect you to play. They expect you to run the defense and execute within the defense.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Thanksgiving Day, Niners and the Seahawks coming your way, a 5:20 kick, and we'll have it for you right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. We are streaming live on Twitch and YouTube, as well as the KNBR app. When we come on back, let's go up to Seattle. Let's talk to Matt Maiocco, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. We'll check in with him. We'll see what the weather's like, what Gino's you say he's going to start, John. I'm more interested in what happens to him throughout the game because, as we talked last week, he came back in and then left. It's a short week. On a long week, I give more credence to him starting and playing because they get more understanding. But there's no telling. Once you've left the game already and come back in and you're playing 80 hours later or something, that's a quick turnaround.
Well, it's got to be some swelling too, right?
I don't know how he'd react to another hit. You don't know. It's a factor in this game.
Here's what I would ask you, Dennis, because if the backup quarterback was better than the starting quarterback, he would be starting. He would be playing. So, look, you're not going to make this public, but if you're on that defensive line, you're on that defense at all, you get a chance to hit Gino. You're hitting Gino, and you're probably hitting him in the elbow if you can. Take that helmet and put it right on the elbow.
Yeah, blood in the water. Blood in the water. Yeah.
Exactly, because, look, Drew Lock's not good. And Geno Smith hasn't had a great year, but Geno Smith is much better than Drew Lock.
Hey, be nice, John. It's Thanksgiving, all right?
Let's be a little bit nice. It is.
Okay?
So, look, I'm not saying it's the Buddy Ryan Bowl, the Buddy Bowl versus Dallas, but you're targeting that spot, are you not?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, you're already targeting the quarterback, and if you can get some hits on the quarterback, that's always a goal. If you can put out the starting quarterback and play with your backup quarterback, that's always a goal. Now there's an injury there. Like I said, it's blood in the water. I mean, you're trying to get that elbow or hit that elbow with the helmet again. And that's just the way it is. And, and I think, that is the mentality of a defensive lineman, especially when it's a good quarterback and the backup quarterback gives you the advantage winning the football game.
John's acting like Drew Lock wiped his cleats on his rug when he walked in for Thanksgiving dinner, kicked his feet up.
The 2 times that he's had to come into a game this year, it was not good.
He was like, what, no gravy? You know what I mean? He's like, John's acting like Drew Lock.
I hate to rip the guy, but, man, if I'm the 49ers, I'm going all out. Sorry, Gino.
John versus Drew.
Eat turkey early. Want Drew Lock in the game.
He wants Gino in the game. Drew Lock comes in. Things are boding well probably for the 49ers. We'll go up to Seattle, talk to Matt Maiocco next on the Sports Leader.
someone's got to go there. So when you lose certain guys, you got to always have that plan, just like at O-line when you lose a certain amount of guys, just like at quarterback when you lose a certain amount. So, there's no third strings on NFL field. It's ones, and some guys have twos, but, all those twos are also playing special teams. So that's the whole challenge as this year goes.
That's Kyle Shanahan, of course. Good news, they win 27-14. A lot of good from last week, but Huff, Talanoa Hufanga is out for the year with an ACL. That means Ji'Ayir Brown on the back end, and the Seahawks have some challenging receivers. So going up to Seattle, get the Niners and the Seahawks. Happy Thanksgiving. And our good friend Matt Maiocco, of course, NBC Sports Bay Area. Make sure you're following him, reading him, and, of course, listen to the great 49ers Talk podcast. And he joins us courtesy of the UMA guest line from Seattle in Lumen Field. Happy Thanksgiving. What's happening?
Happy Thanksgiving. Clear skies.
Good.
No rain. Chilly.
Yeah,
no
chilly.
Wind. It should be nice. Should be a really nice game tonight.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. Hey, we're going to get into a lot of Niners, but I was just texting with some friends in Seattle, and one of them told me that they're elevating Brett Rippon, who actually played for the Rams earlier this year because Geno Smith is questionable. We heard Geno's going to start, but that kind of is a sign to bring up Brett Rippon that they're not entirely confident of Geno, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, unless they say, well, we're going to deactivate Drew Lock.
That's true.
He wasn't great, but no, I would say
Thank you. I've been catching grief. I've been catching grief for saying if they get to Drew Lock, but
it's personal with you. It's more personal with John. You can tell. You should have heard what he was saying off the air last week. Like,
hold on, is it more personal, Drew Lock or Jake Moody?
Definitely Jake Moody. But you know what?
Okay.
Hey, Moody, it's like I don't know.
16-19, 6 in a row. I can't really say much. He's doing well.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah. So I think they didn't. I would think that it's kind of similar to last year when the 49ers came up here on a short week, where they really did not know if Brock Purdy would be able to go, and they determined before the game in the hotel ballroom that he can throw it. It's not too painful, but once you get into the game, you really don't know what's going to happen. That game, they only had the two active quarterbacks. This year, of course, you can have a third active quarterback, the emergency quarterback. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go about this because, to my knowledge, the Seahawks only have two quarterbacks on their active roster. So on a normal game, they only dress two quarterbacks, whereas the 49ers have three quarterbacks on their active roster. So they dress Brandon Allen even though he's inactive, but it just means if they need a third guy, if Purdy goes down and Darnold goes down, then they have Allen available. So this is, I think, a move where Seattle's like, you know what? We're just a little bit closer to needing that third quarterback, so let's not take any chances tonight.
And speaking of Brock Purdy, and happy Thanksgiving, Matthew. I want to put that out there. Brock Purdy, he's coming off of back-to-back weeks. He's played really well, over 100-plus yards. With this defense, I watched this defense play against the Rams last week. They're a pretty decent defense. Do the 49ers attack this defense just business as usual, using George Kittle, using Christian McCaffrey and Ayuk and Debo, or how do you expose this defense?
Yeah, no, I think that probably Kittle would be probably about as good a matchup as they have. Their corners are good on the outside, but I think you got to have, if you're the 49ers, you got to have confidence in your guys that Deebo Samuel can get open, that Brandon Ayuk can get open. I think it really is. I've talked to Kyle Shanahan about this where, and heck, I've talked to the offensive players during the week of practice, just because a guy is catching a lot of passes in practice against the scout team's running what the team believes the opposition will show defensively. Just because that's happening and one guy's getting a lot of balls, it doesn't mean that's how the game is going to pan out. And a lot of times it happens the exact opposite. Days where Brandon Ayuk thought, well, I'm not going to be part of the game plan much in this game. He ends up catching 6 passes for 120 yards. So I think what the 49ers do and what Brock Purdy has done so well for Kyle Shanahan is that it's a very open-ended way of doing this offense in that, here's the play call, here's the defense, and then, if they surprise you, this is this is the next read. This is where the ball goes based on what the defense is doing and what the play call is. So it really is a situation where everybody has to kind of have their head on a swivel and be ready to touch the ball at any minute, because Brock has been so good at distributing the football and throwing it where it needs to go.
Talking to Matt Maiocco, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. He's up in Seattle. I'm going to do the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing where I don't say thank you for your service, because everybody in front of me already did. So I'll just move on to my question, Matt.
Well, Copes, thank you for your service. It shows a lot that a man of your stature is working on Thanksgiving.
Hey,
that's big of you.
I am gonna go home and watch the game on my couch. You know what I mean? Like you're really working, dude. So I appreciate you you working and doing the hit with us and all you're putting into it, because I know there's other things we'd love to do, but we got a job to do, and this should be a fun game. Hopefully, Niners and the Seahawks. John was making a great point earlier. I'm just gonna steal John's note from earlier that there's only two guys.
When has John ever made a good point? That's what I want to know.
That's a solid point.
I actually sent him a voice memo saying I'm going to steal this on air for myself.
I've known Maiocco 13 years, and I don't think I've made a good point to him yet.
Where is the bar on that?
Yeah. Well, who'd you get
Very
this
low.
from, John? Whose note did you steal?
Hey,
Where'd this come from?
I was just looking at. I was just comping notes from last year, and was like, "Whoa, that's different."
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear this.
So here it is. So
should I be sitting down for this?
Of the starter, take a seat. Of the starter on the starter, of the starters on the Seahawks defense in the wild card game against the Niners last year, there are only two starters on this defense today. It is Tariq Woolen and Quandre Diggs.
Yeah.
So in terms of that's surprising. They're a team that's over 500. They're 6-4, and the defense hasn't really been the huge issue. I know they had the big blowout against Baltimore, but how much of an unknown is personnel when it comes to kind of an overhaul defense against a team and a system?
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll's been here a long time, and I know Clint Hurtt is the defensive coordinator. But it's Pete Carroll's defense. It always has been. It always will be. And coordinators come and go.
He's picking for the system. He's plugging in. It's like Belichick. They're plugging in their guys they need, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think the way the 49ers attack offenses, or the way they attack defenses, is less on the personnel and just more on the scheme and what they're trying to do and where their people should be, where their people have been, where they expect their guys to be. But that is interesting, because I remember a year ago, everybody was saying that the Seahawks were on the right, moving in the right direction, and maybe they were even a year or two ahead of schedule by making to the playoffs. So of course that kind of tells you that it's a young team and they're growing and they're going to kind of build into being a good team and growing and all that stuff. But so that much turnover is not what you would expect. But I think the 49ers know how they want to attack this, and this is the first time that Brock Purdy will have faced a team for the third time. And to me, probably the most impressive part of Brock Purdy, or when you started to realize, like, oh, this guy's for real, it's when they already faced the Seahawks once, and now they're playing the Seahawks again in the playoffs. And at that point that Seattle felt like they had a pretty good read on the 49ers offense with Brock Purdy in charge, and they were going to do anything and everything they could to take away stuff that Purdy likes to do. Well, what ended up happening? Brock Purdy throws for 350 yards or something, and 3 touchdowns, and the 49ers roll to a playoff victory. So right then was probably the first indication of he can do it all. Like whatever the team needs, whatever the offense needs, whatever Kyle Shanahan draws up, Brock Purdy is capable of executing that. So, with no weather conditions to speak of, I would expect, and by and large, a healthy team. I don't think that Spencer Burford's going to start, but all that means is John Feliciano moves over to right guard. I think Aaron Banks will be back in the starting lineup. I think the 49ers are set up, even on a short week and traveling, to have a good game against a team they know very well.
Sorry to jump in real quick here. How shallow are they on the offensive line? I wanted to get to that real quick because with Banks now coming back and Burford out, and then you get Feliciano moving over. I remember there was a Luciano that was out there that was mentioned. I thought it'd be funny to go with Feliciano and Luciano from Burford and Banks.
Actually, they're going to sing the national anthem.
Like the alliteration. Oh, good, yeah.
And Luciano.
Luciano.
Yeah, the two tenors.
Yeah, I like
the
them.
two tenors are going to be out there.
The Giant shortstop?
No, he's more of a bass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what I would expect would be, the backups. They called up from the practice squad Corey Luciano and also Jesse Davis. He started a lot of games for the Dolphins. 49ers signed him to the practice squad a couple weeks ago. So I would think that the other backup offensive lineman, the 8th offensive lineman, would be Jalen Moore, and then maybe Matt Pryor isn't active for this game because you can keep 8 offensive linemen up for games. So that would be my thought, unless something. Let's see, what time is it here? We're about ready to kick off, and it should be pretty soon.
What time is it up there, Matt?
Come out. Well, it is 2. Did I say kick off pretty soon? What I meant was
you meant in 3 hours.
What's pretty soon?
Yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's the 2.5 hours away. Time flies on Christmas. I'm going to take a nap Halloween. Because of the turkey, all that
Halloween,
stuff. Okay, well, I'm way off on this. So the inactives come out at 3:40, so an hour from now. So unless I would be surprised if Aaron Banks is not in the starting lineup. So that's I'm looking at offensive lineman Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brindle, Feliciano, and McKivitz, with the 3 backups being Jalen Moore, Jesse Davis, and Corey Luciano. So there you go. I don't know if that made any sense. I don't know if you keep it score.
The point is they've got some depth. But it's inexperienced depth, right?
It is an experienced depth. But because of like the backup tackles and the backup interior linemen, a guy who does have a lot of experience, Matt Pryor, might not be in uniform tonight because they don't need another backup tackle. They already have Jalen Moore. They need another backup
inside
interior guy.
Yeah, because Brendel.
So that's why.
Feliciano's the only backup for Brendel, right? So that it's just that if you lost Brendel, then you only got one other center, and he's already on the field now moved over to guard. So they just needed somebody else.
And then you want it. So you want a backup center, you want a backup guard, and you want a backup tackle. And right now, their 2 best backups, as far as experience, are Pryor and Moore, who are backup tackles, but you don't need 2 backup tackles. So that would make me believe that Pryor won't be in uniform tonight.
Hey, Dennis, how scintillating is this offensive line talk?
I was watching Dennis.
I'm watching Dennis falling asleep with the offensive line talk.
Are they really that important?
I was like, let me get a couple of more here.
I'm watching Dennis.
Stylistic.
Eyes glazing over.
Hey, can we talk about kickers and punters or something like that? Much more
here we go. We got a killer update. I am staring out on the field, and there's Jake Moody in a hoodie, hands in pocket, going through, visualizing a kick.
He
just visualized. Let me do the math on this.
Yeah.
He just
do the math on this,
a 70, let's see, that's 60, 70, a 72-yard field goal. He just visualized.
What is it?
Wait a minute. How do you visualize a 70?
Now he's lining up an 80. This is an 80-yarder from the opposite 30.
He might not be able to see that one.
Dennis.
He goes to coach. He's like, Kyle, I couldn't see the 80-yarder today.
From the right hash mark. Yeah. Let's see if he makes it. Let's see. Here he goes. Here he goes. This is great radio.
Is he attempting an 80-yarder? Really? Is he attempting
one? Here he comes. He swings the foot. And let's see. Did he make it? I think he made it. 80 yards.
This is making me more tired. I felt like I just ate a whole turkey and need to lay down and go to sleep.
Hold on. Was he actually? Was this like air guitar? Was he just like pretending to kick?
Yeah.
He wasn't actually kicking a football. He was just.
I mean, right? I'm getting confirmation. It was an 80-yarder.
It's like air guitar.
And now
confirmation.
I think it was a walk-off because he's going to the locker room. I think he just won the game with an 80-yard touchdown.
That's his Steph Curry tunnel shot right there. Yeah.
Yeah. That was impressive.
Hey,
And unfortunately, nobody other than me and Mike are here to watch that happen.
What's up, Mike and Mike?
There you go. Hey, what is your confidence level in Ji'Ayir Brown for Talanoa Hufanga? This week, Dante Whitner joined us, and he said, you can hide a safety. And look, he knows better than I do because he played safety. But I'm thinking, if I'm Seattle, there's different ways that I can attack that. I want to see who generally they're going to put him on, because this is a tough team matchup-wise, because we know what Lockett and DK can do, and Warden and DK have had their issues, and then you put Smith and Jigba, who's playing much better in the slot. But Noah Fant's not a bad tight end. Now, Walker was really involved in the pass game. I don't know how much Charbonnet is going to be, but they're going to try to expose Ji'Ayir Brown somehow. So what's your confidence level in him?
Well, he's a talented guy. You can tell, like, from the first time you talk to him, that he's like special. He's made of the right stuff, but he's young, and he's a rookie, and he hasn't been through this. And I mean, even in the game last week, he messed some stuff up early in that game, when he went in the second half, and then made up for it later. But he's going to make mistakes. There will be times where he's running behind a guy going into the end zone. We saw it from Talanoa Hufanga last year too. But Brown, he can make the plays as well. But, I mean, there's no question. I asked him this week about, do you expect to get targeted? And he's like, absolutely. He expects them to go after him early and often. And, how do you guard against that? He said it's just the preparation and, being on point with the details. He has a really good pro back there in Tashawn Gibson that can kind of help him out a little bit and, give him some pre-snap pointers and make sure that he's lined up in the right spot. But, like any young guy, you're going to have to live through some growing pains. And at that position, being kind of the last line of defense, his mistakes will be very obvious. His mistakes will wind up meaning a crooked number goes on the scoreboard. But I think ultimately he will get better, and he will be just fine. So I think the loss of Hufanga really hurts his team, maybe more short term than long term. As far as the next few weeks, but I think once Brown kind of figures things out and gets some experience and sees more, he's put in more difficult situations, then you'll see him get better and better. And the idea is he comes out the other end, heading into the playoffs right there as far as what Talanoa Hufanga would give you if he were still on the field.
Great stuff, Matty. Enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
See ya. That is the great Matt Maiocco, again, NBC Sports Bay Area. Make sure that you're checking all his stuff out. He's a tremendous follow, and the 49ers Talk podcast as well. We'll come back, talk about a few of the things that Matty said there, including it's a big story that Seattle is going to activate their third-string quarterback, means that they may not have as much confidence, and he made the comp to Brock Purdy last year in Seattle with that rib injury. So we'll get into that as we get you ready for the Seahawks and the 49ers, the final game of Thanksgiving, only here on the Sports Leader.
I mean, it's a great environment, hostile environment, and so it's just more about being on top of the details, the pre-snap operation. Speaking clearly in the huddle, breaking the huddle on time, making sure we're all on the right page with the snap points and all that stuff. So it's crucial, especially when you're in that kind of environment. There's a lot of easy ways to get distracted, and that crowd is obviously going to do what they can to try to get us off beat. And so it's one of those games where every single play matters. Everybody has to be paying attention to detail, because if not, you'll slip up and it won't be pretty. So
49ers starting quarterback there, Brock Purdy, about the environment up in Seattle. Second time he's going to play there. It'll be the third time he's faced the Seattle Seahawks. Beat him last year in Seattle on a short week after playing Tampa Bay at home at his first career start then. And that won the division, didn't it? Didn't that clinch the division up in Seattle?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
That was
the
one.
And that loss could have made things a little bit more murky. This would too. However, the Seahawks are banged up, and Matt Maiocco just told us it's sort of a similar situation, health-wise for what they're dealing with Geno Smith. You mentioned the Brett Rippon? Is that his name?
Brett
He's
Rippon,
been activated for them as the third quarterback today.
A couple of weeks ago, he was a starter for the Rams. I mean, he hasn't had much time. He's only it's like a Josh Dobbs situation. He's only been there.
It's never used to happen
a couple of weeks. So I don't know that they get down to their third quarterback, but the fact that they're going to activate this guy tells you that they don't have full confidence in Geno Smith's health.
Yeah, it's not about his ability. It's about the health, and it's about go ahead. You can take your shot at Drew Lock here if you want. It's about Drew Lock's.
No, he's great.
Joking.
It's Thanksgiving. Let's be nice to everyone.
I'm going to rip you and I'll be like, John,
trophy.
John, come on, man. You really think Drew Lock's a good quarterback? Come on, John. It's a 49er pregame show. We can't be saying stuff like that, dude. Let's get into building the game plan here. Building the game plan, sponsored by Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit us today at goldenstatelumber.com, and sponsored by River Islands. It was for me.
Wow, that was incredible. That was completely in sync.
Is there an echo in here?
Wow. Come
home to River Islands in Lathrop and discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle with its lakes, parks, and schools. Start your tour today at riverislands.com. How did that play again? Where'd that come from?
He's just standing by.
He's just standing by. Happy Thanksgiving, Marty, from River Islands. So we got the game plan you were just talking about, where you're preparing, obviously, for Geno Smith as the starting quarterback. But to me, he doesn't do enough. I know he can get mobile a little bit, and he's been accurate. Or last year he was accurate. This year he's not been nearly the same quarterback that he was. Remember last year the first interception thrown by the Seahawks for several weeks was by, like, who was it, DJ Dallas or Travis Homer or somebody like that. Threw right to Emmanuel Mosley in the end zone. They had like three running backs on the field at once and ran a trick play in the red zone. But he was extremely accurate, which sort of what we talked about with Brock Purdy last year, though he's making bigger and better throws. He's got, I think, a little bit more arm talent and more talent around him. But they've not been the same offense they were last year, although they had Kenneth Walker. They're without him today. So this is kind of a mess for Seattle. I mean, I'm always wary of a division game, but all things line up pretty good for the Niners, even with the loss of Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, and, you can't – I mean, you talk about game plans. I mean, you have to shut down this offense. I mean, you can't let them first of all, you can't let them, establish a run game early in the football game. They got some good receivers. Lockett and DK, we know what they can do. They can break a game wide open. So you got to get after them early. This defense has to play up, the way they played the last 2 weeks. You got to get after quarterback, whoever the quarterback's in there. But you got to shut down the run game, and then you got to be real sticky on the back end. So you can't let a team like Seattle, because I'm telling you, Pete Carroll have these guys, they're going to be fired up. Whoever's playing quarterback, they're going to be fired up. So, you got to take the crowd out the game. You got to get after them on defense. And on offense, you just do what you do. If you put 30 points on the board, you can beat this team.
Yeah, and the key to Seattle when they're really good is they're always their front seven defensively, and then their offensive line, which can be nasty. But this year, Charles Cross at left tackle, he's a former first-round pick last year out of Mississippi State. He's solid. Last week he had no pressures on him. Damian Lewis is a guy at LSU at left guard that's fine. But the rest of that offensive line, Evan Brown at center, Phil Haynes at right guard, and then Abraham Lucas did practice this week. He was taken last year as well in the third round, and he and Cross are a nice pair. But Abraham Lucas got hurt in the opener and has been back. His window got opened up, but they're going to start Jason Peters, who's 41 years old at right tackle. So that's Nick Bosa's side. They've kind of gone back and forth between him and Stone Forsythe, and the right side with Haynes and then Brown in the middle. and who's ever at right tackle, they just haven't been very good. They haven't been able to run the ball. A Pete Carroll team wants to run the ball. You know this, Dennis, probably 55. They want to be near the top as far as running the football. They throw the football 60% of the time, which is 27th in the league. To just give you a comp on that, when they won the Super Bowl, they ran the ball 58% of the time with Marshawn Lynch. They want to run the ball. They want to out-physical you. They want time of possession. That's what the 49ers want. 49ers are in top 5 in running the football. Seattle is so ineffective in running the football that they have no choice but to throw it, and then that's where the problem comes in with Geno Smith. They have talented receivers. They have talented skill guys, talented running backs, talented tight ends, but they don't have enough time to throw the football, and they've become so one-dimensional this year that teams just pin their ears back, and the offensive line's not good enough to keep them off Geno. That's been part of the problem of why he hasn't been as effective this year.
Jason Peters, 20th season.
Yeah.
In the
That's
National
your right
Football
tackle.
League.
That's your right
tackle.
That's
an offensive tackle. 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't get after this cat, I mean, if Nick Bosa or Chase Young, you got to attack. I mean, he's 40 years. He's got a lot of experience. Stinks. 40 years.
You don't hang around though that long. Like, what does that mean though for a player to be there? Because I wonder, like, if there's a position that can do it. Yeah, we've seen Tom Brady do it, and I know that the protection of quarterback now has been there. But like kickers, yeah, we've seen that happen where guys get up there. But defensive backs is always crazy when a guy's like 35 years old. You know what I mean? 36 years. Like, wow, that he can keep that step with guys who are like 21, 22, coming out of college as receivers and other DBs. Because sometimes you got to use the smarts. We see it in baseball, but it's not necessarily quite as drastic as the athleticism. So, I mean, you can't hang around the league that long and beat guys out for that long if you don't still have some ability. But to your point, when you go up against elite talent like this,
I mean, it's like playing against your dad in the backyard on Thanksgiving, right? I mean, he's got a lot of experience, but still, I mean, you're going against a young cat like a Chase Young or Nick Bosa. You got to be able to get after this guy. I haven't seen him play, but I know he's got the experience. He understands how to play, that position. But golly, 20 years, offensive tackle.
Well, and what they've been doing is they've been starting Stone Forsythe. He was a former 6th-round pick out of Florida, but he's been ineffective. And so what they do is they put Peters in, but he's 41, so he can't play a full game. And this is not what they wanted to do. Again, they had Lucas on the right side. They took Cross in the first round on the left side in the same draft last year, and they thought they had their bookends for years. So, having Lucas out has caused a major problem for this team because Forsythe comes in, gets beat up, then they go to Peters, and he can only play like half the game, and then he's tired and he needs a snack.
Or some oxygen.
Sounds like us. Yeah, I mean, somebody get this guy.
I'm older than that dude, so I'm the same way. I need a nap. Like, he needs a nap in the middle of the second quarter, then he can come back.
49ers beat the Seahawks on a Thursday night last season to win the division. They did it with a banged-up quarterback. Today, the Seahawks have to try to do it with a hurt quarterback in Geno Smith against a 49er team that's won 2 in a row. They moved to 7-3. Should let you know, by the way, the Lions lost earlier today to the Packers at home, if you missed that one. And the Cowboys right now are up 20-10 on Washington. Washington has the ball. About 25 seconds left here before the half, seeing if they can get anything on the board or into field goal range to get something before halftime. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Thank you for streaming us on twitch.tv/thesportsleader, YouTube at KNBR 1045 and the KNBR app. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe with your family. We'll be with you till about 4:20 today. We'll hand it over to Greg and Tim to take you up till kickoff, and we'll be back after the game for a little 49er dessert, a little post-game for you tonight if you're not in a tryptophan coma from all the turkey. Dennis is 2 plates in, and he's got a plate in his bag, he said.
And sweet potato pie.
He didn't say
you didn't say that before.
And a sweet potato pie.
Maybe a whole sweet potato pie for Dennis Brown.
Oh, my God.
See how much of that is done by the time I get back after
Post
the game.
You're just going to be like,
I'll be good.
We got a little bit more for you when we come on back. Let's get into the why don't we get into the John Lynch interview? He met with the morning show earlier this week. He comes on KNBR each and every week. We'll hear from the 49er general manager, John Lynch, and then we'll get you a little bit more on this matchup between the Niners and the Seahawks, only here on the Sports Leader.
Hey, tonight, remember this. Remember this. We hate these boys. We hate these Come out and smoke these boys from the first whistle. The first whistle. One game, 60 minutes, all you got.
That's BYU's finest. Fred Warner there, hyping up the crowd, or hyping up his boy. Dude, I mean, that's what we love about this guy, man. This guy goes to a dark place, and he's going to be a big part, as he has been all year and for many years, of this 49er defense today against Seattle. And they've had more success than their predecessors. Guys like Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis did up in Seattle. Of course, the big win last year to clinch the division on Thursday night on a short week, and they'll have to do it again. A 5:20 kick is coming your way right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. But we have an opportunity each week here on KNBR, or our morning show does. This week it was Murph and Marcus, I believe, met with John Lynch, 49ers general manager. He joined the show this week to talk about the win over the Buccaneers. And they started the conversation by asking John how he felt about that big win over his former team, the Tampa Bay Bucs.
I enjoyed it a lot. You're in those games, and we've had a lot of most games in the NFL come down to one score. And we've had the good fortune of the last couple of years of not being the case. More than not, we're beating people by a good margin when we do so. And so I think it was good to have a little bit of a stress test. The Bucs, coming into that, Kyle really highlighted. He always spends his time as it gets close to the game and watches the opponent. Spends a lot of time on offense early on because he's game planning. But late, I remember just our private conversations. He was really impressed with the way Baker was playing, and he said, "This is not going to be, Baker is playing at a high level," and I think we saw that. So I think they tested us a little. Our guys stood up. So I was proud that we had to play with the game on the line. We made some plays with the game on the line, and man, what can you say about Brock Purdy and the offense really clicking on all cylinders? Brock was just phenomenal, and we talked about him last week. I told you everything I feel about the guy, that he's earned that, and he did it another week, and he can't be much better than he was.
Yeah, you put it out in the universe, and he delivered on Sunday against Tampa Bay. So obviously short week, and the other big story was not as positive, and that was the Talanoa Hufanga injury. So we got to dive into that, John. This is like right up your alley. This is the man you drafted. Ji'Ayir Brown steps right in. So it's kind of a two-part question. One, your reaction to the Hufanga injury, and then two, how ready or not ready is Ji'Ayir Brown for this moment?
Yeah, first of all, with Huff, I mean, those type of guys are hard to replace. I think he just plays with an energy, with a passion. He's an instinctive player. He's a playmaker. He gives a lot to our defense, and he's made so many plays. He fires up our stadium. He fires up our players. The other in Jacksonville, he makes that interceptions, and the T for the Tongan thing that they do, that his hallmark celebration. Our entire team's doing it. I can see our whole stadium. So he's one of those energy givers that, man, it's hard to lose a guy like that. I do feel very fortunate. We traded up to get Ji'Ayir Brown for a reason. He's a really good football player, and he's got, much like Huff, he's got an ability to make plays, and that was tested right away. And I was really proud of the young man. He came in, Baker threw an incredible ball, but what Ji'Ayir did, it was his guy, and he tracked him down, and he gave us a chance to keep playing. And then he settled in, and I thought he made a number of plays in that game, was flying around, playing fast, and he's a very similar player to Huff in terms of, their time speed may not be the best in the world, but, man, they play fast, and, they see the field very well. And then Ji'Ayir, has tremendous ball skills, as we saw evidenced by that pick at the end. So, he's been biding his time, been getting better each week. The coaches have done a great job, been a big-time special teams contributor, and really proud of the way he's worked and stepped up when he was asked to. So it's not ideal because we lose a great player, but, we're excited about the opportunity now to see Ji'Ayir and see what he can do.
John Lynch, the 49ers GM, joining us on the UMA Guest Line this morning. And, John, I wanted to go back to the draft process and your guys' decision to draft Ji'Ayir Brown. Now, I'd love to see how you just broke down his skill set, how it compares to Hufanga, but I'd also like to see how you guys viewed it complementing the skill set of Talanoa Hufanga if the plan was moving forward to have these two guys in the back end of your defensive backfield.
Well, I think you try to get as many good players as you can. Somebody forgot to tell Tashawn Gibson that he's getting older because he keeps playing at a really high level, and so it's we're very fortunate to have him. And I was, to truth be told, I was looking forward to having all of them and finding a way to involve them all. So, but that's not always what happens, and football, unfortunately, you do endure these things. Had a bad feeling, once I saw what happened to Huff. Went in and saw him in the locker room after. He was still hanging on to hope. I was trying to, but unfortunately that wasn't in the cards. But with Ji'Ayir, I think of course, you think, okay, we re-signed Gibson for another year, and then, ideally you'd like to see those two play together. And I think they'd be a tremendous tandem, and hopefully we get to see that someday. Because I think it'd be really good for our team. But right now we got enough back there, and I'm as I said prior, I'm looking forward to Ji'Ayir getting more play time to see how he can help us.
Is the general book on him, we're talking to John Lynch, 49er GM, kind enough to jump on, is the general book on him, though, like you say, he plays like Hufanga, that better at run coverage than pass coverage, and is that a concern going in with, big play guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett?
I don't know. I think Huff is pretty good at pass coverage, so hopefully that wasn't misinterpreted. I think Huff's a very complete player, and I know Ji'Ayir is. Ji'Ayir is a ball hawk. Got 10 interceptions his last couple of years at two different levels, the junior college level and the, at Penn State, led the nation in interceptions. So I think he's a guy who has the ability to play well in all facets of his game, much like Hufanga. So, I don't want to crown them, but they're similar in that, like I said, they didn't light up the combine with their 40 times, but they play extremely fast, and the GPS speeds speak to that. And, with Ji'Ayir, you're talking about a team captain type of guy at Penn State. So he's got a similar love for the game, a passion for the game, and it manifests itself with really physical, fun play out there on the field.
What role, John, does Tashawn Gibson and or say like a Fred Warner play, old Yoda to young Jedi here? Because, it's good. Short week, road environment, tough game. So mentally, assignments and places to be. Is that Gibson and Fred Warner now? They're the teachers?
Yeah, I think Fred is, Fred's very much a leader of this team, if not, and the defense, and he is the signal caller. But on the back end, the safeties are involved in so much communication, and Huff was extremely good at that, as is Tashawn Gibson. All that experience that Tashawn has will come in handy, but Ji'Ayir has done a great job from the first day he came in here of knowing his assignments, knowing them well. So much of the back end at safety is communicating the coverages, the changes of strength, and all those things. And Ji'Ayir has done a really good job. So it's great to have a vet back there like Gip to help him along. But he's shown not to lead a whole lot of help, and we're going to need him to do a lot of the communication. So it's time to step up, and I think he did that in really cool fashion the other day.
And speaking of a veteran presence, John, I wanted to ask you about the return of Bobby Wagner to the Seattle Seahawks defense. Now, the 49ers, you guys had success running the ball against the Seahawks last year, but that was obviously a team that did not have Bobby Wagner. They went out and drafted Devon Witherspoon, rookie this year, who's playing phenomenal. They bring in someone like Leonard Williams, and now Jamal Adams might be back from injury as well. Just would love to get your breakdown of this Seahawks defense ahead of your guys' Thursday night matchup.
Yeah, they bring a lot to the table. I think you've been watching them. I know earlier in the season I was watching a game, and I think they had 10, 11 sacks. Yeah, you're right. They brought Bobby Wagner back, who seems Father Time has not taken him down yet. He's still playing. He's making tackles all over the field. John Schneider and Pete Carroll have done an incredible job over the years, way back to the Legion of Boom teams, and then kind of reinventing themselves and then continuing to add to it with players like Devon Witherspoon. They really do a nice job assembling a roster, and this defense it's legit, and they're playing at a high level, and it's going to be a great test for us up there, and Seattle always is, and looking forward to the matchup.
Talking to John Lynch, a few more minutes here before they get ready for this Thursday nighter up at, I know your only opponent is yourself, and you have a game on Thursday, but wouldn't it have been nice to see the Eagles lose last night, John?
Yeah, that would have been nice. I can't say. Yeah, I think we can certainly say that we were rooting for the Chiefs, but I think nobody taught me better than Tony Dungy. Tony used to always say, you don't scoreboard watch this time of year. And we certainly have we haven't earned the right to do that. We got to go continue to knock down these opponents. We got a really tough one, so our singular focus right now is on the Seattle Seahawks, which is going to be a great test, and it's a great opportunity for us and to try to go get another win. And it will be difficult, and on the short turnaround, traveling, all those things. But this is why you play, to take on these challenges.
No, it's gonna be super fun. And then we can't let you go without comment on Purdy, who we opened with. I mean, I'm watching his highlight reel, and you got Daryl LaMonica, the Mad Bomber. You guys are chucking it down. It's Danny Marino. He's 2 plays in 2 weeks in a row, a 66-yard touchdown and a 76-yard touchdown. And when you and Kyle have assembled your team, I mean, that hasn't always been the hallmark of the 49ers, is the big play down the field. What's going on, John?
Well, I don't think anybody's making more big plays down the field than Brock Purdy. I mean, he's throwing the ball down the field, chunk yardage. Guys like Ayuk, Kittle, Christian, Debo. There's a lot of weapons there. He's going to take it to the right place. I don't remember consciously saying, man, I remember stages in the offseason. Okay, he's throwing. Now it looks like his arm got a little stronger. Then you get in the season and you're kind of just going. But I do believe from game one till now, I think Brock's arm has continually gotten stronger. Maybe the bye week, allowed it to rest a little, and he came back with a little extra juice. But really, it's about taking it the right place. He's got all the arm strength you ever need. He throws it so accurately. He makes such good decisions, and he's just playing the position extremely well right now. We got to keep that going.
Yeah, and John, I remember that being a narrative surrounding Brock Purdy after you guys drafted him, is him not having the arm strength. I would love for you to just tell us how that's developed over the past couple of years, and if it's possible that his arm has gotten stronger after this offseason internal brace elbow surgery.
We need what was that show we watched with Lee Majors growing up?
The $6 Million Man, right?
Yeah, we need that music queued up. I have it in my head. But, he's got all the arm strength you ever need. And is it stronger than where it was last year? I don't know. But it's looking really good right now, as evidenced by the perfect passer rating, all those things. And most importantly, he led us to a win. And, Brock is he's so mature. And, quickly after that game was already talking about Seattle in the locker room. So he understands. He's a tremendous, leaders to me, you make people around you better. I think he's got that quality in his play, also in his demeanor. And he had turned the page already and was looking forward to the challenge and knowing that we got to put together a great effort in short order against the Seahawks.
We're thankful for you and your honest and frank and fun conversations. And so we want to wish you and your family, your beautiful family, a happy Thanksgiving. And then what we'll say is, have a great trip to Seattle, and we'll talk to you next week.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, John.
Okay, look forward. Happy Thanksgiving to you and all the faithful out there. So much to be grateful for. So count your blessings this Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next week.
John Lynch earlier this week with Murph and Mac. Thanks for joining us. Your 49ers pregame is get you ready for the Seahawks and the 49ers on Thanksgiving to wrap up Thanksgiving. We already got a Thanksgiving present. Green Bay upset the Lions to knock them to 8-3, so the 49ers can tie the Lions, the second best mark behind the Eagles in the NFC. It's time
Dolly
for
Parton out here real quick. Dolly Parton on the halftime show for this Cowboys game right now.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Just getting it done.
What's the demo for that? Jason Peters, the right tackle for the Seahawks? What do we got there? What's going on?
I'll tell you who it's not. It's not me and Dennis. I'll tell you that
No,
much
it's
right
not
now.
me either.
Yeah, it ain't us, yeah.
Player to bank on brought to us by Casino Matrix, also by 5 Star Bank. Learn more at 5starbank.com. Player to bank on. All right, I'll start with you, Dennis. Give me a player, anybody. Player to bank on. Who do you got?
Last 2 weeks, it's got to be Brock Purdy, right?
Yep.
I mean, he's
low-hanging
a guy.
fruit, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
it's very low hanging, but it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, he is
Close to
playing,
home, Dennis. Yeah.
He has played, lights out football. I mean, I don't know if we were just talking about with John Lynch. I don't know if his arm's gotten stronger or what, but he's making throws that, when he was coming out of college that they're saying he couldn't make. His arm wasn't strong enough. All of a sudden, he's throwing the ball down the field 60 yards. So, player to bank on, and the player that has to play well, and he's got the toughest position, I think, next to defensive line is quarterback Brock Purdy.
I'm going to go.
Coach?
I'm going to go with the run game. I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. On short weeks, I always feel like you're putting heavy emphasis on the run game anyway. I know Kyle says he doesn't like to trim stuff down, but I think I wonder if you split it up and you counted run plays, pass plays, what the split is in Kyle's playbook. If I had to bet, I would bet it's run plays. I'm going to go with McCaffrey here, who's not gone over 100 yards on the ground in a few weeks here. 78, 95, 54. He's had several attempts in a couple of big games, and he's gone over 100 from scrimmage, but he hasn't had a big breakout yard game. He had the 16 against Jacksonville for 95. Hasn't gotten in the end zone on the ground in a few weeks here since the Cincinnati loss. Last year against Seattle, the first time as a 49er, he carried the ball 26 times. He carried it over 20 times for the first time, for 108 yards and a touchdown. I'm looking for McCaffrey today to carry the load. I think that they can go big in this one because of the offense that they're going to be able to suppress due to the injury of Geno Smith. Zach Charbonnet is going to be a good back out of the backfield, but if they fall behind in this one, they're not going to be able to lean on the run the way they want to. And if they have to open it up and try to throw downfield, they've got big-time receivers. Smith and Jigba could have a big day because he's the third guy there alongside Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But I think in terms of guys for the 49ers, they want to get a big lead here, and they want McCaffrey to run the load at the end of the game and make sure they're suppressing that clock and deflating the ball. So I'm going McCaffrey today.
No, that's a good call. Let me go back to Purdy for a second, and because I read this on the air with Greg this week, and it was funny because there's so much debate about Brock Purdy and everything goes back and forth, and now the narrative is arm strength. Everybody's got to try to find on a national level something to rip him on. But I was looking at his NFL draft write-up at NFL.com. These are his weaknesses. See, tell me if these are accurate. Weaknesses: pocket setup lacks quickness. Field blinders occasionally rob him of seeing the big play. Delivery is labored. Lacks timing to beat NFL corners outside the numbers, shies away from tight window throws, ball needs to come out sooner on deep ball shots, and confidence and consistency have been issues. I think you're over.
Who was that about?
This was Brock Purdy. This was
Lance? What was it?
This is what amazes me, and this is why I think people are
when was this written?
Are set up. This was right before the draft. This was Lance Zierlein is the main writer. I know him. He's out of Houston. He's the main writer for their write-ups on NFL.com. And in this case, the weaknesses, I think he's over. Pocket setup does not lack quickness. He does not have field blinders. His delivery is not labored. He does not lack time. He does not shy away from tight window throws. In fact, we think pretty much the opposite. Ball does not need to come out sooner on deep ball shots. And confidence and consistency is one of the most confident players I've ever seen. So, it's just funny. I think what happens is people on a national level, and somebody brought up a good point. I can't remember who we were talking to this week, that a lot of these guys, they should be better. They should do more. But everybody doesn't watch every game. We watch these games.
Well, they watch tape, and that's sometimes tape doesn't tell you everything.
Right. But I think there are two things that people could do, even if they don't watch the Niners consistently, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because they're on all the time on a national level. But the analytics, he's number one in all these different things, from QBR to QB rating to yards per attempt to 20-plus throws, and all these different things. And it's like, how can you, if this is your job on a national level, not be informed whether you want to watch the game, okay, but then just look at the numbers. I mean, a lot of lazy people in our industry just look at numbers. Well, the numbers also back him up. So, like, for example, this week, Shannon Sharp, who knows a hell of a lot more about football than me, I'm watching him talk about Brock Purdy, and and this is a guy with a big-time foreman stage, so this is where a lot of the narratives come from. He's still stuck on this whole, it's Kyle Shanahan, it's the system, and it's the players. And I'm like, dude, watch these layered throws over the middle, over the linebacker in front of the safety, and watch some of these throws down the sideline, the one to Kittle where he's got, all this pressure in his face. Like,
yeah,
what are you not even at least watching the highlights and looking at the numbers about what the guy's doing? It amazes me.
Well, and that's what I would say is that the evaluation at the draft, I mean, I can't say that any of that is untrue, because sometimes you evaluate things and you say these are the weaknesses, and who's to say that Brock didn't try to correct those weaknesses, and now we see them as strengths. Also, as a college quarterback and a guy who starts from your freshman year, the scared or won't fit things here, a lot of times guys get labeled early on at a university, and that's just something that follows them around, whether it's true or not true, or it's a tag that gets put on them. So I think a few things are true here. I think Brock is a better quarterback now than when he came into the draft. I think experience is a huge part of that. I think the system in which you end up in is a major part of that development. And the thing that's crazy, and Marcus Thompson made this point, I know we got to run here. Marcus Thompson made the point to me earlier this week, is that everybody's saying, well, everything has to go right around him. He needs all these weapons around him. He can't do X, Y, and Z. Except the guys that they're using to say he needs to be successful are the guys that are saying, no. They're giving him credit, saying, you guys don't understand what kind of quality play this is. You don't understand the checks and the reads. Christian McCaffrey had one of the best statements about it after the game last week. Said, it's preposterous to say that this guy is lacking and is just a system quarterback. And to be honest with you, I don't think it matters one way or the other. The yards per attempt for him this year, 9.5 or 9.7. That's almost a full yard or more, better than the best season yards per attempt for Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So the guy's having... I mean, we're carrying the stats against everybody else. The stat is what we're comparing other quarterbacks to as well. It's not like we're putting him in a box. So we got plenty more to come here on 49er Pregame. Adam Copeland, John Lund, and Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. Niners and the Seahawks coming your way. A 5:20 kick for Sunday Night Football. They've just started the second half in Dallas. Dallas up on Washington 20-10 as they open the second half, and the Cowboys looking to move here and run away with this one. They were 13.5-point favorites at the start of this game. When we come on back, a little bit more on Nick Bosa, his resurgence after Chase Young has showed up, the Buckeye Crunch. We'll get a little bit of that today. That was for you there, John. Have a bowl of Buckeye Crunch for Thanksgiving. Nice. Yeah, you cook some of that up, only here on the Sports Leader.
How important is this one, just given what it could mean for you guys down the road?
Huge. Division opponents are two games for us is how we look at it. And they're right on our heels. We got to win the division first, so that's definitely the goal.
There's Nick Bosa leading us back from Lumen Field. We'll wrap up all the Thanksgiving games with the 49ers, so Greg and Tim will take over at about 4:20, which is nice. And then about 5:20 is the kickoff from Seattle, and it's a big one. And the next few games are big as well. And it's ironic because it's not often that everybody's kind of key games are at the same time. But if you look at Seattle, they've got a bunch of tough games coming up. The 49ers have Seattle at the Eagles, and then Seattle once again. That's where we are. We've been looking forward to that Eagles game. And if they can get the win today, it would be huge to have 10 days to get ready for the Eagles. The Eagles have a tough stretch. Dallas has a tough stretch. Seattle's got a tough stretch. So everybody, the team that I was so worried about, guys, was Detroit. They seemingly had an easy way. They had the Lions they had the Vikings a couple times, the Bears, the Saints. Their schedule did not look as daunting, but the Lions are going to lion. Today, they lose at home Thanksgiving to the Packers 29-23. A lot of questionable fourth downs in this one. A fake punt that they went for as well. Green Bay jumped out to a 20-6 lead in the first quarter and hang on 29-22.
So fumble by Jared Goff. Put him down early, yeah.
Yeah, they had a bunch of turnovers.
He's had a couple of tough weeks for Goff.
Yeah. So they fall to 8-3. It looks like, there's a long way to go in that game.
They got an easy
in
schedule,
Dallas.
man.
But 20-10, Dallas leading Washington. So they would improve to 8-3. The Lions have already fallen to 8-3. And if the 49ers beat the Seahawks today, they go to 8-3, and that would drop Seattle to 6-5. So they'd be 2 games ahead, but then they'd go into Philadelphia. But a win today, and then you got 10 days to get ready for Philadelphia. So, yeah, you get this quick turnaround. You don't love that. But it's a team you're generally familiar with, and then you get 10 days to get ready for Philadelphia.
No, you love it. You love it. I mean, you get on the road now. You know, it's getting close to the end. You're in November now. You're in December now. So now, you know, you've got it. You've got your groove now. You got your routine. You got to recover. You got to get your body together. But you love this. I mean, you go on the road, you play, you get some time off. You go on the road and you play a tough team. Then you come back and play the same team. So in my eyes at least, I would think this is these next 3 weeks. It's a tough 3 weeks. But it's a good 3 weeks because you're in your rhythm. It's getting close to the end. This is the push. You got to love it. This is what football is about right now.
It's good for the Niners. What's tough is the win for Philadelphia over Kansas City because it doesn't outright eliminate the Niners' opportunity to win the 1 seed because you can still get a lot. Hell, you can get a loss from Philly this week against Buffalo at home, and then the Niners go in there, and if they beat them, then they own the number 1 seed. However, then you're looking for the Niners to win out, and Philadelphia if you're counting on them to win out, or you look at them to lose 3 in a row. I don't see that happening with Buffalo, the Niners, and then Dallas. So you were really hoping for them to get at least one more there, so the Niners could afford at least another loss. Because then you're looking for the Niners to be the 1 seed, win out the regular season, and then win throughout the playoffs to the Super Bowl. You're talking a 10-12 game win streak, which isn't impossible, but it seems more unlikely than winning the 2 and maybe losing another game between now and then.
We are coming down to it, and this is why we start talking about these kind of things. I know when John Lynch joined Murph and Mack earlier, and he said, you don't start looking, but you do start looking at this point because this is week 12. I mean, we're starting getting in. There's 18 weeks in this thing, 17 games. So we're 2/3 of the way through the season. Now, look, I looked at the Lions and said, geez, they may not lose, but they just lost to the Packers. But to just give you, this is so weird because all these teams have their stretch right now at the same time. So the Niners in the next 5, at Seattle, at the Eagles, Seattle again, now the Cardinals on the road, but then the Ravens on Christmas.
Oof.
The Eagles, they just won at the Chiefs, like you said, their next 5, so let's put the Chiefs in there. But
Buffalo.
Bills, 49ers, at Cowboys, at Seahawks. The Cowboys after the Commandos today, Seattle, the Eagles, at the Bills, at the Dolphins, and the Lions. And the Seahawks, so I think if they lose today, they could fall out of the playoff picture because they'd go to 6-5. After today, they're at the Cowboys, Eagles, at the 49ers, and they still got to go to Tennessee, who's not very good, but then they've got a playoff team in the Steelers. So, it often happens that maybe some teams' gauntlet is at the beginning or the end. It just so happens that in the NFC, between the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the 49ers, their gauntlet of 4 or 5 games is right now at the same time. And actually, when it comes down to the 49ers, Eagles, and Cowboys, they play each other in that stretch as well.
Yeah. And
so a lot can change.
And there's some landmines in there too. There's some other. I mean, like going to Arizona and facing now that Kyler Murray's there, you don't feel nearly as good
a gimme
about that game December 17th or 16th, whatever that is, after they play Philadelphia. Anyway, more to get to here in terms of the Niners and the Seahawks. A 5:20 kick. We'll hand it over to Greg and Tim at 4:20. When we come on back, we'll get more into what. We'll do a little peek behind enemy lines here. We'll take a look at what the Seahawks could look like after they got banged up last week. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Lund, streaming on twitch.tv/thesportsleader, YouTube, on the KNBR page, and on the KNBR app, only here on the Sports Leader.
Getting ready for the Seahawks and the 49ers. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're doing great. John Lund, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, as we get you ready for the finale on Thanksgiving. Hope you're having a great day, great dinner. Be safe, have fun. But we talked to Steve Rabel, the voice. Let's go behind enemy lines. We talked to the voice of the Seahawks, and Steve Rabel actually an original Seahawk. He was on that original Seahawks team in 1977, played at the Kingdome. He was their analyst for a long time, and now he's their play-by-play voice, been that way for a long time as well. So a lot of things going around Seattle. Injury to Geno Smith, lost last second to the Rams. Then you got to turn around quickly and take on another division foe in the 49ers, and as the Seahawks sit at 6-4, maybe the season is a little bit in the balance, and so we started off the discussion with Steve Rabel, the voice of the Seahawks, with that crushing loss. We're Jason Myers missed a field goal at the horn, and the Seahawks lose 17-16 in L.A.
Yeah, it really is, Pop. We beat them twice last year, but both times without Stafford. So Stafford comes back this year, and he beats us. The whole team beats us in the opener and just knocked the living daylights out of us in the second half. And then we go down there, and I'm with you. I felt really confident about the game, even though they seem to have our number sometimes, much like you guys. But I just thought that it felt like we had the horses to be able to do it. We had guys back off the injured list that didn't even play in that first game. Some young guys who had really come into their own, Witherspoon and some of the other kids up on that defense. Boye Mafe, he's played so well this year. And Jason, Jason hit 5 field goals the week before in the game winner. He's hit 5 twice this season already. And this one was well within his range. It just wasn't to be. And you guys go there every year, so on a day when they have the Santa Anas started blowing after they had some rain in there, and that wind, even though it's got a cover on, even though it's got that plexiglass roof on it, it's open on either end, and so it can really swirl in there a little bit. And just before the field goal attempt, I noticed that the flags on the top of the goalpost were starting to really spin, and I thought, well, this is not going to be just a normal kick. And it turned out it wasn't. It was unfortunate. I too thought that he was going to make that, and we would be, singing and drinking all the way home, which we weren't.
Seahawks now 6-4 after that loss, and the 49ers are 7-3, and they'll do it on Thanksgiving. So out of that game, we were just talking about Geno Smith. So Geno comes back late in that game, but Aaron Donald got him off that helmet, and then Ken Walker III as well. So it sounds like Geno's going to play. Ken Walker III is not. Is that accurate?
It sounds that way. I'm guessing that probably Ken won't. We still got lots of football to play, and I hadn't heard too much about oblique injuries in football players. In baseball, yeah, but I'd not heard. In fact, I couldn't. If you asked me and spotted me the O and the B, I couldn't point out an oblique on my body. The love handles.
Yeah, that's how I know.
Oh, bingo.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
I pull that every time I get up out of the parking lot.
Turkey dinner will pull those things.
Oh, my God, yeah. So, in fact, I was just rubbing some butter and cream on it just last night. But you don't need to know that.
TMI.
I'm guessing that he probably won't. And they really like this McIntosh kid, 7th-round choice out of Georgia. Guy's a really good back. Here's the guy who was the leading ground gainer for the national champions last year, and he hasn't seen the field yet, mostly because he was injured, but we finally got him up to speed. So I'm guessing that they'll put him on the active roster if in fact Kenny can't go. But that's sort of what my feeling is. Geno, on the other hand, I thought they broke his arm in the game. Honest to God, the way he got hit and the way he grabbed it and was coming off the field, and they had the ice bag on it, and then all of a sudden here he comes out for that last drive. He's just that kind of guy. He's so tough, and he wants to be there for his teammates to win games, and he damn near pulled it out.
Yeah, and on that play, Aaron Donald just blew by your right guard, Phil Haynes, and just got right into Geno. And then on the follow-through, he hit the elbow on Donald's helmet. So your offensive line, and I thought, the Cross and Lucas, the 2 young guys last year, fortified the flanks. And now it's just been constant upheaval. I've lost track of all the different combinations you have. Who's going to start, do you think, on Thanksgiving night for you guys at right tackle? Stone Forsythe, Jason Peters, or might it be Abraham Lucas back from injury, Steve?
Yeah, if I had to bet, and trust me when I tell you this, and you've known me a long time, Bob, I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time, but I will tell you, I don't think it's going to be Abe Lucas. I don't think he's going to be ready to go. And, if he, he's only practiced like a couple of weeks where he's really been able to get down in his stance and go at practice, and then they've, given him a number of days off, as many veterans get, or guys who are still kind of nursing injuries. So I don't think he's going to be ready. I would, if I had to bet my paycheck, which ain't worth much, but I would bet Jason Peters is going to start again. And, those guys actually did a pretty good job. Our opening drive was like 88 yards, 14 plays, an 8-yard touchdown pass. We started out like gangbusters, and we've done that the last few weeks. but we're not able to get over the hump and sustain that. And that's been our problem offensively. And then defensively, we start out well and then give up some points at the end of the game, which cause us, to end up having to fight back and either win or lose the game. So I'm going to guess it's going to be Peters up front, and then Phil, Evan Brown at center, Damian Lewis at the other guard. But again, I thought we played pretty well up front. Had a few moments, but I thought we protected pretty well. Gino was able to get out of trouble a little bit, and when he needed to, and against that group, that's pretty good. We're going to be facing the same thing this week.
Steve Rabel, the great voice of the Seahawks, joining us, Pop and Lund here on the Sports Leader. Of course, Seahawks and 49ers on Thanksgiving from Seattle. I was studying the game today, Steve, and was a little surprised. I mean, I know there's been a lot of changes defensively, so I was looking at the starters on January 14th in that wild card game versus now. The only two guys who started last week against the Rams who started in that game were Woolen and Diggs. The whole entire front seven is different. Obviously, you just picked up Leonard Williams, and you mentioned Mafe. He was in that game. He just didn't start. So the 9 of the 11 starters are different defensively. So how have they come together?
Well, and it's taken a little time. There's a lot of young guys in there, and you guys have seen enough football to know that even with veterans, even with guys like Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed and Draymond Jones and Mario Edwards, who are all brand new to our front four this year, or front three as we tend to play it, and sometimes front two. It takes a while not to understand what the defense is necessarily, but to understand what the guys around you are going to do when you do your assignment. So if I'm Jaron, I need to know how Draymond is going to play when I'm, if we're running a loop and some sort of stunt, and Big Cat the same way when he came in, just trying to learn the guys around him. Chenna Nwosu was playing great football for us until he got hurt, and he's done for the year. And that's unfortunate because he was one of those team leaders, kind of in a quiet way, but it's not that we miss him terribly. We've got good depth at that position, but he was just a guy that you really had hoped would keep playing and playing at a high level. Boye, as I said, has been playing great. Darrell Taylor he's a better pass rusher than he is a guy against the run. But the rookie that we have, Derek Hall, he's gotten banged up a little bit, but the kid out of Auburn, he's played well at that outside linebacker position. So, and then the secondary, we did not have Jamal last week. We hope we're going to get him back. We think we can get him back this week to play, but you tear your quad. Listen, I'm surprised that he's back playing already this season, considering what happened to him last year, early in the year. Witherspoon is just lights out. I was just talking about him in our radio show with our station, and we all are of that same opinion, that he's just a terrific talent, a great athlete, and he's got a great sense for the defense and how to play it. That's why Pete loves him so much. And then you bring Bobby back in, put him in the middle of the defense to make the calls, and Jordan Brooks is playing great too, coming off that ACL.
Yeah, talk a little more about the rookie Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. And we saw him coming out. He was a ferocious tackler, and but they're using him in the nickel spot. Pete likes to blitz him a lot. I mean, to me, he's the runaway defensive rookie of the year this year in the NFL. Just how good is Spoon right now?
He's really good. He got a penalty or two this last week. One of them was just a brutally bad call, which sustained the Rams' drive, and they eventually scored. But they called a pass interference in the end zone when Puka Nacua literally fell, tripped on our free safety, tripped on Diggs and fell, and Spoon happened to be right behind him. The official threw the flag, and so those things are going to happen, I guess. But he just plays so well. Gets a little handsy once in a while, but most defensive backs do. And his first couple of games, he was a little spotty. Boy, oh boy, has he stepped up and played. And you're right. We play him at the nickel, and in large measure because he's the best one-on-one cover guy we have. And when teams put guys like Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel and all in the slot, we want to have our best guy on him. It also puts him closer to the line of scrimmage, which, as you said, Pop, makes him much more a candidate to blitz. Also, just his tackling ability. He's great against the run. I mean, really good against the run. He diagnoses well, and he commits, and he's rarely wrong. When he blitzes, he can get his hands up if he knows he can't get to the quarterback. So he's just been fun to watch.
Yeah, that game he had against the Giants on Monday night was probably the best game a defensive back has had this year. I mean, he was incredible, the pick six and everything he did on the blitzes. And the other thing about him that is amazing, he's not the biggest guy, but he'll play inside and outside. And for a rookie to pick those things up as quickly as he does, so he plays the outside, then Brown comes in and he flips to the inside. It's amazing.
It really is. And two, you look at him, they list him as 5'11", 180 pounds. He might be 5'11". I'm guessing at this point in the year he's not 180 pounds. He looks lean. In fact, he looks kind of skinny, but he is fearless, absolutely fearless, and that I think goes a long way to playing the way he plays. And so, just keep it up. With a couple of more guys like him, we can go a long way. I'm good with our defense as it is, and we just need to get we need to find a way to get more pressure up front. We can't let Brock stand back there and throw all day. I think we got to Stafford a couple of times and really didn't knock him down like you'd like to. And we need to do a better job of that all the way around.
Well, you guys know good secondaries up there, obviously, with the Legion of Boom. But with Devin Witherspoon and Trey Brown, to me, is really underrated. And then Reek Woolen is just a great player. And then explain to me, Steve, when Coach uses the three safety alignment. I know Jamal didn't play against the Rams with the quad injury in the opener last year, and he's, on a little bit of a pitch count. But I got to, assume he does play. Julian Love was a good player with the Giants, and you got Quandre Diggs as a ball hawk who seemingly always has a pick against the Niners. When does Coach Carroll go to the three safety alignment when he uses Julian Love, Quandre Diggs, and if he's healthy, Jamal Adams? How often does he do that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's really, I don't think there's anything set in stone. I think more it has to do with what kinds of tendencies we see out of the offense that we're playing against. If it's going to be an offense that's going to come out, we know wants to try to be balanced and wants to try to run the football. The Rams didn't start running the football till late in the game. They just figured we're going to just go ahead and we'll give them a little taste of the run. But, they've been through a box load full of running backs already this year. They have a couple of them now. Neither of them are stars, but both of them can make some yards if they get some blocking in front of them. So I think the tendency is more to play these guys as, I don't want to say as a little bit of a change of pace, but getting Jamal in the game for what he can do as a blitzer, as a guy, again, near the line of scrimmage. In nickel situations, maybe not so much, but when we play a normal three down up front, you might have the three safeties in there and drop him down like an outside backer or an inside backer and take Brooksy and move him outside to the edge. So there's a lot of different things that the Seahawks can do, and they want to do it, obviously, to give a change up in the look that a quarterback sees. But then you have to also want to be able to utilize the strengths of these guys. And as you mentioned, with the three cornerbacks, we don't hesitate to go nickel or even dime and have all those guys in there. And when you're up against a team that wants to play four wides and has a back that's a good receiver, or a tight end in your case that's a really good receiver, you got your hands full. It all starts up front. It makes the secondary's job so much easier when we can get that kind of pressure on the quarterback, get him off his spot. And if we can't do that, it can be a long day no matter how good you are in the back end.
49ers pregame as we're getting you ready for the 49ers and the Seahawks from Lumen Field in Seattle. That was the voice of the Seahawks. We went behind enemy lines with Steve Rabel. Still to come, Players Spotlight, the Steve Young Show, Tim Ryan, bro, from Lumen Field. Getting you ready for the Seahawks and the 49ers, only here on the Sports Leader.
Adam Copeland back here with your 49er player spotlight ahead of Week 12, 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. And why don't we go to the kid, the rookie, Ji'Ayir Brown, the 49ers' top pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. A third-rounder out of Penn State was thrust into the action last week against the Buccaneers after the season-ending knee injury to Talanoa Hufanga. A lot is going to be put on this kid's plate in an elite defense. Here's what Ji'Ayir Brown had to say about his first career interception, one of the best moments of his life.
I'm used to getting interceptions. It was a tip pass, it was falling, how every tip pass fall. And just locked my eyes in on it and then dove out for it and got it. I tried to turn over on my back so I can not fall, hit my stomach and be aired out the end. Kind of aired me out the end.
You just got the wind knocked out of you?
I got the wind knocked out. And it's a funny thing. It's like I hear Fred and all the guys, man, get up and celebrate, get up. In my mind, I'm like, I got to get up for the guys. But they would not let me get up, man. I was aired out. So
Did they think you were milking it?
No. They knew I was shaking my head. I was responding, but wasn't nothing coming out. So they helped me get up, man, and I got to celebrate. And it was probably one of the best moments I ever had.
Well, how about that? 31 career snaps played entering last week's game. He comes in, had a mistake, and then gets his first career interception. 4 total tackles, 2 solo in the game. Ji'Ayir Brown will be in there today at safety with the season-ending injury to Talanoa Hufanga, and that's why he is this week's 49er player spotlight. The Hall of Famer, Steve Young, number 8, joins myself and Tom Tolbert every Wednesday of the football season in the 5 o'clock hour. It's the best half hour in radio anywhere, I'd say in the world. I'd say just about anywhere you can find it. How about this? Steve this week compared Brock Purdy to Jalen Hurts and C.J. Stroud. He explains why he has to work harder than most quarterbacks do in the NFL.
Brock is going to have – he's not the prototype. The prototype is Jalen Hurts. C.J. Stroud, who is just – I think is everyone doesn't understand when you watch the tape, he is ahead of the game. He is an anticipatory thrower. Like, that's when you know someone's going to get better and better and better because they have that gift. Brock can't throw it as late as CJ can, as late as Jalen can, because his arm, it's different. So he has to do it even more guileless ways. Like, he has to actually be ahead. And that's why he's gotten into trouble in the 3 losses where the ball's coming out. The ball has to come out, and that's one of his gifts. But it has to come out so fast and early. anticipation that it's like it hasn't fully developed, and where the other guys can hang for the extra quarter a second. They can watch for a little bit longer, and then they can get out of the pocket, stiff arm a defensive lineman, get out and throw it 60 yards. So Brock's going to have to do it. If CJ or Jalen's going to take 3 steps, Brock's going to take 5. But he's going to be so efficient and good at it, he's going to be 5 for 5, where the other guys have to be 3 for 3. So that's just a fact. And he's going to have to do that in the biggest games. And he's going to have to do it coming from behind. The NFL today, every game, it feels like, comes down the last couple possessions of the fourth quarter. That was never the case before. It was always more stodgy, more thick. It was like you couldn't make that big vicissitudes of scoring, like back and forth. It's like the NBA today. And you've got 5 guys in the league, or 6, that you give the ball in their hands in the last couple of drives, and they will get it done. And Brock needs to constantly work extra to be one of those guys, but I think he can.
All right, we'll go back up to Seattle here. Get you ready for the 49ers and the Seahawks Thanksgiving night. Thursday night football, and to help us do so, he'll be on the call tonight. It's Tim Ryan. What's up, Tim? Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Copes. How we doing?
We're doing pretty good, man. I think the way things are lining up for the Niners, last year we were looking at the similarities here in terms of how it lines up health-wise for the Seahawks. Now, they came off the win over the Buccaneers, short week. on Thursday night in Seattle. And for me, that was the night that I was like, this kid Brock Purdy's different, because to be as hurt as he was, and we didn't know about that, and then to find out about it afterwards said a lot. Now Seattle's dealing with a quarterback situation. They don't have their starting running back. Geno Smith is going to start, but they've elevated Brett Rippon. What's the outlook here on this one for the Niners and the health of the Seahawks?
Yeah, well, not so sure about the Seahawks. I mean, that Aaron Donald hit was nasty, and the bruised tricep and the elbow and the challenges that Geno Smith is going to have on a short week. So I think obviously they brought up Rippon just in case. Of course, Drew Lock at number 2. For the 49ers, they're the healthiest team in pro football right now when you look at it. And Aaron Banks is going to go tonight. He's going to give it a shot with the toe. He'll be at left guard. Burford is going to be out. We just got the inactive list, so John Feliciano will slide over to the right guard position. And they're going to need those guys to play well. Seattle is very strong, Copes, on defense right down the middle of the field. Jaron Reed is, they got 3 new defensive linemen. And Draymond Jones, I think, is their best player. They got in free agency up front from Denver. But Jaron Reed right in the middle. Of course, Leonard Williams comes over from the Giants. The USC Trojan was the number 6 overall pick. His best game this year, and I've watched all their games with him playing, was against the 49ers in week 3. So Bobby Wagner is back, and then they got 2 safeties that can really get after it. Quandre Diggs is a guy that can take the football away. He's had success as a robber, kind of stealing some of those inside throws that the 49ers love to go to. So it's going to be a big challenge. Pete Carroll always has his teams ready to play, and say what you want, this is the 49ers' biggest division rival. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the defense can do tonight against Geno Smith in that offense. Make them one-dimensional without K9 Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet's a good back. He's only run it 53 times this year, so defending the screen will be and he's a good screen player, and it's really the only play that is consistently given the 49ers defense some challenges. So I could expect a whole host of a variety of screens in this game.
And you talk about matchups. I can see, especially in that slot with the rookie Weatherspoon and Debo going headed up. I think that could be a good matchup to watch tonight.
Well, he's going to have to cover everybody because a lot of guys can get in the slot now with these 49ers. It'll be McCaffrey, it'll be Debo, it'll be Chains, Jawan Jennings. Ayuk can get in the slot. We've seen that. So that's going to be – I know what I'm looking forward to is watching that – he's 185 pounds, and he is as advertised. I think he's the defensive rookie of the year right now going into Week 12. He is the real deal. Plays with a lot of passion. He's a perfect Seahawk with his competitive spirit. I'm looking forward to watching Juwan and some of those wide receivers block him because I think that's an area – at his size where there is going to be a mismatch. And if you watch these guys on tape, Seattle's defense, and again, going back to being strong down the middle, I think the perimeter run game is an area the 49ers will be able to attack tonight with those outside linebackers in that 5-man front, and blocking the nickel, blocking the safeties, digging those guys out with the wide receivers is going to be a big part of it.
Tim Ryan is joining us from Lumen Field, getting ready for the Seahawks and the 49ers. How you feeling about Brown back there in place of Hufanga?
Pretty good. I mean, Huff does so much stuff that you really don't notice when you're watching the game on television. You gotta break down the tape and look at it, and he takes a lot of things away with his football intelligence, and he is far along in terms of years in the league, but precocious in terms of how he sees the game. So, but Ji'Ayir Brown has been playing good, Johnny, for the last month in practice. Obviously got out there last week and did a lot of good things. And I'm looking forward to watching him fit in this run game. And then those safeties are going to have to help on the corners with DK Metcalf, who plays possessed against the 49ers, and you know what a matchup problem he is. What I like about Ji'Ayir is his physicality. And obviously, when you go back to his Penn State days, he can go get the football and get interceptions, and had one of those last week against the Bucks. But I'm looking forward to him body rocking guys in the kill zone. Geno Smith is not going to want to hold the football. He is going to unload it quick. Tyler Lockett is so crafty, so savvy at sitting down in those zone holes. I'm looking forward to 27 throwing some body-rocking tackles out there.
Talking to Tim Ryan here, does the offense look any different for them in the secondary with Smith and Jigba? Because he's another capable receiver, a third guy you got to watch out for.
Yeah, and that's the guy that they've kind of been missing. It's been the Metcalf Lockett show with the last couple of years. So I don't think there's any doubt. The rookie's having a good year. You watched the Ram game last week, and he started red hot. But I like Demo Lenore in that matchup. Yeah. I think we could see tighter coverage in this game, because I think what you want to do when you watch the tape and watch Geno Smith is you want to take away his first read. If you let him just comfortable, fast pass, run the system and just get the ball out quick versus off coverage and the things they like to do, he can still rip the deep comeback. He'll play well. If you can play tight coverage early in the route and get him off that first read, he's looking for an escape hatch. And the way I look at it, and I know, Dennis, you'll love this, and it's just, look, bag one limit at a time for the gold rush and the pass rushers, but bird season opens tonight. And when you think of Seahawks tonight, Eagles next week, Seahawks again, then the Cardinals, then the Ravens, time to bag some limits, boys, and it starts tonight.
Yeah, and it starts with the defense. And, I'm just looking at, some of the matchups. Jason Peters, he's got 20 years in the league, Tim, and he has to play against some of these young kids. I think that's going to be a key matchup on the outside there. Whoever's going to line up, Nick Bosa or Chase Young.
Yep, I agree with you. And Jason looks all right, though, when you watch the tape for a 41-year-old guy. And remember, he was the cream of the crop in this league when he played. But it is a young man's game. And where you see in pass pro, he's still pretty athletic at 41 years old. This guy came into the league in 2004.
Yeah.
But when you watch him and tries to get movement in the run game, and that's just, to me, that's where you don't see the explosive ability just to move people off the spot. But yeah, that's going to be a matchup problem for them. And I think the 49ers are anticipating Jason Peters and rotating with Stone Forsythe, who I love that matchup with Bosa or Chase Young with their power and their ability to forklift guys off the edge.
Is Sammy Womack healthy enough?
Sammy Womack is playing, absolutely. And Darrell Luter is also playing on the back end. And I'm glad you mentioned that because
I like him, man.
Hopefully I do too. And Sam can play, in the slot. He can play outside. He's very good on special teams. This will be a tough special teams matchup. But I'm glad you mentioned the secondary because this is going to be another big test for Ambry Thomas and Charvarius Ward. I mean, you guys know what DK Metcalf can do. Ambry's answered the bell the last couple of weeks. So it'll be a big challenge for him in this game tonight.
Danny just called him Decaf Metcalf. I like that. Let's decaf him today on Thanksgiving night. I like the decaf Metcalf.
DK.
I like that. Hey, Tim, have a great call, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you, man.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game, man. Good stuff there. We are getting ready to hand it over to Tim Ryan and Greg Papa here, who will take you up till kickoff. Through the ball game, you'll hear from John Lund at halftime. And then, of course, we will be back with you after the conclusion of the postgame show with Tim and Greg. They'll have to get on a plane and come on home, and then they get some time off here. The Niners do before, I guess it's 10 days now. You get off before they have to go to Philadelphia. Dennis, final thoughts on this one as the Niners are, it's interesting. Tim said something there. He said they're the healthiest team in pro football. I know the loss of Hufanga seems big, but it's true. In terms of the talent they have on the field, they are a pretty healthy unit. Knock on Mike or whatever this is right now.
Yeah, definitely. You get Debo back and you get Trent Williams back. You do lose a key player in your defense, but you're healthy, and that's good, especially going on these next 3 games. So go in and take care of business. Don't look at what's going on around you. You have it's a road trip. It's a business trip. You go up to Seattle. You leave with a W. Get some time off. Get ready for a real big game, and then you play them again. So, I mean, this has got to be a fun time right now. I mean, because this is what football's about right now.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, you play these guys 2 of the next 3 weeks with Philly in between, and this has been a place that's been a house of horrors. But over the last 3 seasons, Seattle's only 12-10 at home, so it's not what it used to be. They're 4-1 this year. I know that, but if you look at the opponents, they're combined 12-28. I mean, they beat Cleveland, but it seems like the Panthers and the Commanders. So that this is not the place that it's been in the past because the team, and I think that we have identified a lot of the matchups, the right side of that offensive line with Haynes and Forsythe or Peters. There's a lot of opportunities to beat these guys. The fun part is watching this secondary. You guys mentioned Witherspoon, and those matchups on both sides of the ball are fun. But this is a game, if the 49ers, and I've been saying this all year, it doesn't matter who they play, it's how they play. If the 49ers play their way against this team, they're better. Just don't beat yourself.
Well, that's going to do it for us on the pregame show. Thanks to everybody who checked in. Hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving. Be safe out there on the roads if you're driving. We'll be back with you on the postgame show as we hand it over to Greg Papa and Tim Ryan to take you up to kickoff for the 49ers and the Seahawks on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.